managing natural resources across this region, across this country, across Africa and across the globe is not a light job, because resources are scarce and people who need them are many. Resource conflict often exists. There are those communities who, despite the available avenues for legal access, will want to always make forceful entry or come at night, still say to take some of these resources. And now the job of the wildlife authorities, including us here in Mt Elgon, is to ensure that illegal resource harvest does not take place. For example, we've had the people who have attempted to enter and cut timber, burn charcoal, graze in the park, illegally cultivate. And the rangers are always there, whose job is not only to sensitize the people to ensure that they do not have to access these resources illegally, but for legal avenues. But when they don't listen, who have a duty to use the minimum force to push them back.
Welcome to yet another edition of Masan Media. Today, we are sitting at the headquarters of Mt Elgon National Park in Mbale City. That is the Uganda Wildlife Authority. Uganda Wildlife Authority. That's where we said here, and we're going to be discussing several issues that has been happening or what you've been hearing about Mt Elgon National Park. Many have been said, truth, lies. So we're going to be discussing that, and we're going to reach on the bottom of the matter. What was said, was it truth, was it lies, and all that. So today we are hosting the Chief Warden of Mt Elgon National Park. Without wasting even a single minute, I'm going to allow him to introduce the viewers and those who are listening in, and then we start. Welcome to Masan Media, sir.
Thank you very much, and good times, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whichever time it is that you are watching us. I'm Samuel Amanya, and I'm the Chief Warden for Mt Elgon Conservation Area. And I'm happy to be hosted here on Masan Media, and particularly here in Mbale, where we are having a discussion.
Real quick, people appreciating for the good work done at Mt Elgon National Park. Those who are benefiting directly and those who are benefiting indirectly, they are appreciating for the good work done. First of all, thanks for the good work done at that particular area.
Thank you very much.
How has it been since you came here?
I'm about 3 years in this conservation area, Mt Elgon Conservation Area, and it must have been very, very unique experience. And indeed what I've discovered is that each conservation area in Uganda offers a very unique experience. But overall I would say it has been good. Yes, those experiences have been super, super good. And perhaps more about Mt Elgon National Park that we are talking about.
Yes.
This is a 1,121 square kilometer in size. And it is located in eastern Uganda, particularly in the districts of Namisindwa, Bududa, Mbare, Sironko, Bulamburi, Kapchorwa, Kwen, and Buko. All these districts have land inside the park, or their administrative boundaries don't only touch the park, but they also enter the park. The park is in eastern Uganda, but on the border with Kenya. So there is a stretch of the boundary of the park which neighbors the international boundary. And in Kenya, there is also another Mt Elgon National Park, which is, and also Mt Elgon Forest Reserve or equivalent on Kenyan side. So in this region, this national park is neighboring two main communities, the Sabine and the Gishu, or Gishu speaking community. And the national park was established as far as 1938. And since that time, it has gone through different legal regimes, but it started as a crown forest during the colonial time. Later, 1968, 65 and 68, it got its boundary plans. And in 1993, it becomes a national park. And in 1996, Uganda Wildlife Authority, when it was born, it is given responsibility to manage it. So 1996 to date, that's about 30 years when Uganda Wildlife Authority has been in charge. And when we took over, we never changed, and we've never changed the main objective of its establishment, which is mainly conservation for what? For ecosystem services. Mt Elgon gives water in form of rivers coming from it, which supply all those districts I've mentioned, water for domestic use, as well as for production, like agricultural activities, irrigation, industrial, all these like the industrial park here in Mbare, water comes from Elgon. But also through rainfall provision. This region is having sufficient rainfall. And it's Mt Elgon that contributes to that. And doesn't not only do that, water provision in this region or in these districts, but also in Kenya. That also it powers water into the River Nile system. So the waters from Elgon also benefits northern Uganda, South Sudan, Sudan, and Egypt. We have 85 rivers that permanently come out of Mt Elgon National Park within the Ugandan territory. And out of that, 25 have potential even to provide electricity. Mt Elgon is not only a forest, but is a forest from that is growing on volcanic soils, because Mt Elgon is a dormant volcano. In other words, it's no longer active, so we can't be threatened at any time volcanic eruptions can happen. No, but the old volcanic soils are able to provide sufficient soils that eventually come down, where the agricultural communities generally enjoy. As you notice, every bit of the top surface outside the national park is a place for growing crops, because the soils are fertile. The region is feeding other parts of this country. There are so many lorries of cabbages, of Irish, of maize that come from Bugisu and Sebei that go to Kampala, go to Busia, that go to Kenya, mainly because of the rich soils combined with the sufficient rainfall. So all that puts Mt Elgon National Park a heartbeat of the region. Of course, there are other spin-off benefits other than conservation for water or hydrological cycle, but tourism. Mt Elgon is 4,321 meters above sea level, And where the park begins is like around 2,200. So we have very many tourists who are interested to come and hike that stretch of over 2,000 meters, and they have several routes or trails that take tourists to the top of the mountain, where we neighbor Kenya. And when you reach up there, there is what we call a caldera. This is an area which is like a stretch of 8 kilometers and very flat. There's even a lake there and a permanent water. It's very, very cold, and that is the apex of those who are enthusiasts in mountain climbing. So those who want to go to the mountain can use Bushi Trail, which is in Bududa. They can use the Sasa Trail, which is in Isironko. They can use the Kapkwai Trail, which is in Kapchorwa. We've also opened another one, which is Terrier Trail, which is also in Kapchorwa. We have Piswa Trail, which is in Kwen. In all of them, they take at least a minimum of 3 days to go and return. Others can take 5. So depending on your energies, you can choose. We have companies that we work with, or private sector that participate in bringing visitors, like Elgon Trekking Services, whose director is Hanwick, came about 2.5 years ago under the concession between the company and the Uganda Wildlife Authority to run Sasa Trail. So as a private sector, they have the ability to market and get many more clients and to provide excellent service. They work on the trail, they work on accommodation, but those guests indeed pay entrance fee like it is done when they are going into other national parks. Now, the more visitors that we get that enter into the national park, the more revenue for Uganda Wildlife Authority to run its operations, and the more revenue shared with the local communities. You might be aware we have our laws, the laws of this country provide for 20% revenue sharing for every you get entry fee charged. So when we get more visitors, the 8 districts will be able to get more money to share. But when we have fewer visitors, indeed there is less to share. So Mt Elgon, as sweet as it is, indeed, it is liked by very many people that surround it. We have a number of benefits that come from Mt Elgon to the people, other than the water and the revenue sharing that I've just mentioned. All communities that surround the park have the right or are given the opportunity to access the park to collect non-timber forest products, or those products which we can sustainably harvest without affecting their continued availability, even for the future generation to find them. For example, the harvesting of the marewa. You know, marewa is a delicacy in this region. Almost all towns in the 8 districts have restaurants, and each restaurant has a source of marewa. You can imagine that kind of economy. The contribution of marewa to the local economy. And I understand even some marewa exported sold in Kampala. So imagine if you remove the marewa in the equation of the hospitality restaurant business in this region, it can be a disaster. So now our job as UWA is to ensure that the resource is sustainably accessed. Harvesting periods have to be specified. The number of people have to be specified. The quantity they can harvest each month or each harvesting season has to be specified. That's the same that we do for firewood across all the 8 districts. That's the same we do for medicinal plants or herbs across all the districts. There are also some communities, I think in Sebei, whom we've allowed to harvest some grass for zero grazing. Others, we've allowed them to participate in the planting of some of the like napier grass, which can be used for zero grazing within the fringes of the national park. So at the end of it all, the local communities ought to appreciate the importance of the park amidst them through those multitude of the benefits. Of course, a number of our staff who are employed in UWA come from the neighborhood villages, parishes, and sub-counties of these protected areas. And indeed, also in this area, there are a number of the Sabine-speaking people, as well as the Gishu-speaking communities, who are rangers, guides, wardens, drivers, etc. And like the upcoming recruitment, the recruitment center is here in Mbare. It is brought here in Mbare, not in Kampala, the headquarters, for purposes of attracting the local participation, so that the biggest number of employees come from the communities that are surrounding the national park. In this national park, we also work with communities to restore it. Restoration of the national park, some areas that could have been degraded before, restoring them requires replanting of the trees. And when you plant a tree, it takes about 5 years before it can close the canopy. So in the first year, second year, third year, in some places we've developed agreements with the local communities that the first, second, third year, you can access this part of the restored area. You keep taking good care of these trees that you've planted, that is weeding, pruning, but as you plant crops that do not directly compete with the trees that have been planted.
Maybe a quick one.
And we call it Taunja.
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask about that. Does it like
yes, the common name that is understood under that arrangement is called Taunja. The growing of crops within a protected area, but within only those areas where we have replanted trees or where we are carrying out restoration, and for purposes of benefiting conservation and the people. Benefiting conservation in that the same person who is growing his crops also take good care of the trees that have been planted. In other words, there are certain standards, terms and conditions. Say you cannot plant any crop within these centimeters of the tree. Yeah. You cannot trim badly. And our rangers are always on the ground, monitoring and working with the local communities to ensure that the right thing is done under Taunja to avoid any possible abuse. So with that, we think the local communities that have participated in Taunja, it has worked well. And it areas like in Sebeiland, particularly in Kwen and Buko. Yes. We've had a very, very successful Taunja program where we've about 700 hectares under softwood plantations. That is softwood. Maybe in Mt Elgon, by the time we were acquiring it in 1996, we also acquired it with a program that was under the then Forest Sector Support Department, where some parts of their estate would be subjected to growing of softwood. This is eucalyptus, cypress, and pine. For purposes, and Grevillea, for purposes of providing wood and wood products, like timber, to the population of Uganda. Yes. So that program that we adopted, then we continued with it, and we continued to allow people to do Taunja. And the trees have now grown. In 2018, we harvested, we got good money as UWA as a part of our income, and also in the last 2023, as now 2026, now we also expect to sell more. So those are some of the benefits of Taunja. When we work together closely with the communities. That's not to say that it doesn't also have its own challenges. When you do not closely monitor, the communities are likely, sometimes some communities are likely to do it in the wrong way. Sometimes they they prune the trees so badly that they may not grow well. Sometimes when trees grow up, and at the 5th year when they are supposed to leave for the trees to grow, they are hesitant to leave because many times they have no other place where to grow the crops, and they end up illegally coming to cultivate, and we have to enforce the law and try to push them back. So others, when the trees grow up, for lack of firewood, they tend to come back and steal the trees for firewood. So you find that we are in back and forth battles sometimes. And for some communities where they have been probably more stubborn, or they are taking long to cooperate, or their continued taunja could be more harmful to conservation than giving positive results, then we may sometimes we are forced to hold, to suspend, until when the communities are fully sensitized, fully engaged, fully mobilized the leaders. So in some areas, yes, we've had to do so. And also, by the way, when we are ending let's say the fifth year or 4th year of the planting, we have to officially write to them and say, now the time has come, you have to leave. Some people may interpret that as closing the taunja, yet ordinarily you have reached the time when you have to close and you have to look for another area where we can restore together. So basically, we have about so far like 6,000 acres surrounding this national park, which we can work with local communities to restore. So the local communities that are cooperative to benefit, promote conservation, really we work together. So we receive several applications of communities that have organized themselves, and we have trust in one another. So we engage, and we think the next phase could be in September or so we can re-engage. But those communities that we are still in the phase of mobilization, we are not yet sure of one another, or where the leaders have not taken keen interest to mobilize the communities to do a good job, yes, we may delay sometimes. Indeed, we call upon all leaders to support that. More important, to ensure compliance. We are a little bit disappointed, I think, in one of the sub-counties in Bududa, where communities were given an opportunity to do taunja, and at the 5th year, when they needed to pull out, some groups of community members came back and cut down the trees.
What?
Yes, and that's quite disappointing. Maybe they wanted to continue doing the cultivation. Yeah, it becomes a little bit disappointing, but we don't give up. We continue to work with the people, because the policy of this country is that we must conserve with the people of this country, particularly those that are directly neighboring the park.
Let's talk about the issue of, there have been allegations of people dying, most of the locals neighboring this national park. How true are the allegations, or how false are they? Maybe in the exchange, I think, with the rangers and all that.
Thank you for that question. Managing natural resources across this region, across this country, across Africa, and across the globe is not a light job, because resources are scarce and people who need them are many. Resource conflict often exists. There are those communities who, despite the available avenues for legal access, will want to always make forceful entry or come at night, still say to take some of these resources. And now the job of the wildlife authorities, including us here in Mt Elgon, is to ensure that illegal resource harvest does not take place. For example, we've had the people who have attempted to enter and cut timber, burn charcoal, graze in the park, illegally cultivate. And the rangers are always there, whose job is not only to sensitize the people to ensure that they do not have to access these resources illegally, but for legal avenues. But when they don't listen, who have a duty to use the minimum force to push them back, to arrest them, to produce them to police, to ensure investigations are carried out, prosecution is carried out, court does its job, and the people who do wrong are punished. Now, the process of enforcement is not a tea party. This is the bush, this is the jungle. And at that moment, someone who's doing a wrong thing is an enemy in court. Some of those people who do illegal activities come ready and armed to fight back. Our rangers are trying to approach them, to arrest them, to stop them. They are not only running away, but some are staging a fight. We've had situations where some of our outposts have been attacked and burned, simply because that outpost has participated in impounding the cows that were illegally grazing in the park. Now the communities, the youth, gather themselves. They want to attack the park to rescue the cows. Now, when you are going to attack someone who is armed, the first thing is self-defense.
Yeah.
Yes, he can warn you, but when it comes tougher, the call for security, for self-defense, requires sometimes to use some lethal force. We've had situations where our own rangers have died who have not managed to properly defend themselves. In the last 20 years, we have 14 rangers who have been killed by the local communities who are coming by force to attack rangers not to do the enforcement work. 14 rangers buried, cut with pangas, killed with hoes, stones, sharpened sticks, strangled, drowned, all sorts of weapons used. We've also lost a tourist, I think, at some stage. Now we have other 65 who are rangers living with disabilities. Some still serving, others have retired. Serving when they are disabled. Pangas have gone through their hands, their heads, their fingers, their backs, their legs. Now, when you have an enemy who has that capacity, definitely now that's not a tea party, but it is a fight. In the process of self-defense, some local communities could have lost their lives or could have been injured. Indeed, we've seen this. It has happened before. It's always regrettable and unfortunate, but something inevitable. Yeah. Of course, when a local community has been injured or has died in the battle, to the media and the general public, it sounds like the guy who was armed surely maybe did the wrong stuff. But all these incidences, or at least majority of them, occur during self-defense. So these incidences have happened, and I confirm that they have happened, and those are the circumstances under each. If you went to discover each one of them, that's the reasons behind.
Let's talk about encroachment of the national park. How much land has been encroached, and as UWA, have you been able to measure that portion of land that has been encroached, and what are you doing to ensure that you regain back the encroached land?
Encroachment of Mt Elgon is one of the biggest conservation challenges we are having. As I shared with you, the biggest push is the high population, the communities that are surround the park. The population, the human population density is really, really very high. I carried out some studies sometime, and I found that whereas in some districts, like Karenga district, each human being has 2.5 acres available for production. Here in some of the districts in Bugis that surrounding us, instead 8 people are in 1 acre. Wow. So due to lack of alternative option where to cultivate, the local communities force themselves into the park, beyond the boundaries of the park, and they start cultivation. So there's that back and forth chase. How do we know that they have encroached? We have now very, very good technology that is able to tell you where the boundary is. All these boundaries, wherever they are, they have the coordinates, every corner. The coordinate, this is a scientific technology where you have the point for each, just like how they do in surveying.
Yeah.
And that point is put in a computer program called Geographic Information System and produces a map, and you can shift that map to now a phone. So when you have that phone and you go to the field and you open it on a program, like there's a program called Avenza, you can be able to see where you are standing. If there is a line of the park, you can be able to see the line. And if you are near the park, you can be able to see that you are near the park or near the boundary. If you cross the line, then you will be able to see that you have crossed. So all our rangers, wherever they are in the park, using their phone, they can be able to know where the boundary has been encroached. So we have the maps that show the encroachment not only per district or per sub-county, but per parish, per village, where even you yourself you can go and see. So in each of the 8 districts that are surrounding us, each of them, without exception, has attempted to encroach. And when you add together the total land that is either encroached or threatened to be encroached or previously encroached, total around 6,000 acres. And 6,000 acres is not a small piece of land.
Yeah. And
it's very, very much regrettable. Much of this, some of the communities have gone to court, claiming that that part of that land or the whole land belongs to them.
To them, yeah.
Unfortunately, some of these court cases have taken really long time. There are some which are 25 years in court.
Wow.
Sorry, 20 years in court, 22 years in court, 23, 19, majority of them actually. I think out of 11, it's only one which is less than 10 years.
There are 11 cases in total.
Yes, and all these, wherever they are, some of them have secured the court injunctions, which prohibits UWF from further enforcement. And unfortunately, some of them misuse those injunctions and go ahead to continue expanding.
Wow.
And as they continue to expand inside doing encroachment, and our job is to push them back, those are the conflicts you sometimes hear. The process of pushing them back, not expand encroachment, where there are court injunctions, eventually leads to some of those crashes you hear about. So what are we doing about it? The government of Uganda has really done its best to bring harmony between conservationists or Uganda Wildlife Authority and the people surrounding it, where there has been these boundary conflicts. The recent one and the most notable one is of the 2017 boundary reopening project, where the different ministries, Ministry of Local Government, Ministry of Lands, Ministry of Water and Environment, Ministry of Water Environment, then Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, the local leadership, all participated with the surveyors from Ministry of Lands, using 1968 for boundary maps or boundary plans to trace, using the latest technology, where each of the boundary points or pillars ought to be. And during that process, we were able to know the community and the government who is within each other's land. In fact, we found that there is a lot of give and take, where the community thought it is theirs, but now goes back for it is part of gazetted land, and where the conservation thought they extended. So using the latest technology, we are able to properly pinpoint where we pass. So what we've done is to sensitize the local leadership, share with them those maps showing the 2017 boundary as determined by the government surveyors. Approved, the report was approved by the cabinet, showing where the boundary passes. Some communities agree to it, some continue not to agree, but it's our duty to keep engaging them and the leaders, sensitizing them to accept that that is the new boundary line that can bring harmony and peace. It's not easy though. The job remains tough because of the pressure on land that I've already shared with you. But the challenge that is before us to deliver on. And our employers, our bosses, who are the people of Uganda, are expecting us to deliver on that commitment.
Let's talk about, we've mentioned of conflicts that you have between, that is happening between the UA authorities and the communities around. What are you doing to ensure, to have, because we need to work in harmony, the neighboring community and the UA as an organization. What are you doing to ensure that you minimize or probably reduce or do away completely with all these conflicts you always face between you and the neighboring communities?
As I just said, one of the biggest strategies we have is sensitizing people. Sensitizing the local communities, the leaders, to appreciate the existence of that boundary. And as I said, we do it through meetings, workshops, sharing of documents, sharing of applications that can help to show the boundary where it is, where it passes. And we are not tired about that. We know we'll do it in this generation, even the generation to come. Sensitizing the people, educating the people about the boundary. Sensitizing and educating the people about the law of conservation and how it needs to be obeyed, and when you don't obey it, how bad it can be, like leading to arrest and imprisonment. Sensitizing the people about the best way to work with conservation, to collaborate under this agreement, to access resources, and to give them the option of entering into agreements with us to do conservation or restoration together. We also put in pillars. Where the boundary is passing, we put pillars, white, paint them white. For each and every neighborhood, recognize that this is where the boundary passes. In addition to pillars, we also plant boundary trees, eucalyptus, to demonstrate that to anybody who is far away that this is where the boundary stops. And this is where you ought also to stop. So, and where the conflict continues to emerge, honestly, we have a duty to enforce. Where encroachment continues to emerge, we have the duty to stop it. For example, if you have come and you have cultivating in national park is illegal. The law says you are not supposed to grow crops in the park. So we warn you before you plant. Please don't dare. We have been to radios. Don't dare, don't plant. You can make a loss. But when you insist and plant, we come for you to look for you. But in most cases, it's not easy to find the people when they're planting. They plant at night and disappear.
Wow.
But you find crops growing. So we are under duty to remove those crops because at that stage you call them invasives. We call them unwanted plants. We call them exotics. And the Uganda Wildlife Authority has an elaborate program to ensure that the parks are kept clean and neat to serve their purpose, ecosystem services and tourists, to enable the animals that are in the park to have access to grass. So we enforce it. Sometimes part of the enforcement includes removal, destroying of the crops that have been planted in the park. To disappoint. Because at that stage, by the way, we are disappointed because you can't find the owner of the garden. You are with your rangers in the park and you want to find the garden, there are no people. Annoyingly, there are some people who even attempted to grow there this marijuana.
Wow.
So, you know, being a bush carries so many things, just like darkness. So it carries some of the people who have criminal minds to find a safe haven where they can hide and do their illegal stuff. You must be aware that Mt Elgon has been sometimes used as a hideout for stolen cows.
Yeah, sure.
Stolen cows from Sebeiland, from Bugisoland, from Kenya, the transit, the hideout, part of it is the national park. And it's them, those criminal elements that we meet when we have tourists. So it's our duty to stop it. And you don't stop it with gloves. You stop it with force. That's why we wear gumboots, we wear jungle shoes and the clothes that camouflage and with ponchos and with guns. To protect ourselves, to protect the park, to protect the tourists. to protect the resources that is given to us.
As we are winding up, what could be your recommendations for the community and then the UWA itself?
Now, the recommendation first to UWA is that we remain steadfast. We signed for this job voluntarily to protect these resources. And the law was given to us that should guide us. So we should do, and we should continue to do the right job. All our rangers, all our wardens, all our development partners, it's their duty to continue upholding that. To the local communities, it is strong encouragement that they have to see this resource, they have to continue seeing it as theirs. It's, for us, we are just workers. But the forest is a midstream. It's them to benefit. So you destroy it, you are destroying your future. You have to protect it. I was so intrigued recently when I saw elephants coming back. About a herd of 120 elephants now frequent visits part of this national park, coming from our neighborhood, Kenya, Nairobi, the Mt Elgon National Park on the Kenyan side. For some of the areas that we've restored and are relatively calm and peaceful, these elephants are coming back. You know, we have a special type of elephant which mine minerals. We have caves in this national park, and we have elephants that enter the cave and use their tusks to mine the minerals and eat them.
Wow.
And that's a special characteristic of elephants which can attract very many tourists here. If we market it so well, if we keep the area so peaceful that the elephants can keep around. If we don't, then we'll continue to lose tourists to other places because we don't have what to give them. We have a nice birding experience here. Not only hiking, but birding, plant life. So, and Mt Elgon plays a key role as part of the Eastern tourism circuit. If you have to be in Eastern Uganda, Mt Elgon is really part and parcel of the products that you'd want, you cannot miss. Now, if you destroy it through encroachment, illegal resource use, cutting of bamboo to extermination, timber cut, you've eventually destroyed our own tourism resource that is where our whole, where the entire circuit is hanging. So we call upon all leaders, all law enforcement personnel, that conservation is not only for Uganda Wildlife Authority, but it's for all Ugandans.
Maybe the very last one. When we talk of tourists, most people think you're talking about the white people, of those from outside countries. A quick one, from Bogiso and Sebei, how have these local tourists embraced Mt Elgon National Park?
Yes, the bulk of our tourists generally are foreign nationals. But there is a growing number of local Ugandans who are very much interested to also participate and be tourists or local tourists. And we continue to encourage them. The middle income population continues to grow, and they have some disposable income. And compared to within the last 30 years since UWA came into existence, the numbers of local tourists have always grown. Yes, we know it takes time for all of them to pick up, but we know the numbers are promising. But of course, spending in tourism is dependent on whether you have that part of disposable income. When are still struggling with the basic needs of life, which most of our rural people really, that's experience they are in, majority of them don't find hiking as an immediate alternative or immediate as something to do. But that's not to feel discouraged that the future generation will not participate. And that's why I say, protect this mountain for the future generation. Because they may be good tour operators, good tour guides, good tourists, but they will not if we don't preserve it. The forest was established in 1938, and we are looking for 2038 to celebrate the 100 years of Mt Elgon Conservation Area existence. And we believe our people will be there to witness and appreciate.
Do you have any last message you would love to pass out to the outside community?
Come and visit Mt Elgon. Come and see what we are doing. Participate in its conservation whenever you have an opportunity to participate. That way we shall have developed Uganda together.
That has been the Chief Warden of Mt Elgon National Park. He has said it all. I would not even add anything or remove anything from what he has said. You've heard it all, and yeah, why not? This is ours. Let's embrace it, and for the future, because we might take it for granted, but your child or your grandchild might need it or might even take that path of tourism. Until next time.